Hi, I'm Kevin,
And I'm Amanda.
and we are serving up.
All that jam. A lighthearted look at the weekend jam bands.
Where we break down the jam scene's biggest stories,
Talk new bands.
upcoming tours,
And show reviews. A little laughing, some hot takes, and an always positive message for the community.
We are here today with Jessie Miller, bassist, founding member of Lotus, and also bassist for Octave Cat, which is what we're going to jump into today. And why don't we just, what is the origin and evolution of Octave Cat? How did the project come together?
So we really didn't set out to start a side project. Um, I was just hanging out with Eli in Philly in I think 2016 and kind of showing him some of my synths, and we started recording some stuff, and yeah, we just liked what we had, and kind of kept building out some things, and then it looked like we were gonna have um, I don't know, like enough songs for a record. So I got the idea to bring in Charlie to drum, who is someone I had known from doing some opening shows for Lotus in the past, and it's just like a drummer who like understood what we were going for as far as like the jazz side, but also had deep understanding of dance music too. So yeah, just kind of naturally fell into place, and yeah, we've been our three albums in at this point, and I guess like 6 years, which is kind of crazy.
I love, and I'm sure you hear this a lot, but I love the title of the most recent album. That's one of my favorite kind of phrases, the sprezzatura, that kind of like
Yeah,
we make this look nice and nonchalant and that kind of thing. And I feel like the music on that album, if I were to try to think of what sprezzatura would be in musical form, I'm like, yeah, okay, I could totally see this. But is that what you were going for? Like, were you really kind of thinking of that term and its meaning, like for the music you were writing? Were those like really connected, or?
yeah, definitely. There's a lot of what stands out most to me about Octave Cat, at least compared to my other projects, is it really delves into some complex jazz harmonies, but it's always in hopefully in service of this real like groove music, and we always like to make have like really catchy melodies and like danceable beats. So yeah, I was thinking about all of that when I proposed Sprezzatura as a title.
Mhm. Um, you also put together a really great playlist, which I don't see that very often, the influences for the album. And I was kind of running down those. I think I saw it on Spotify first, MMW, Zap, just some really awesome stuff. And I love that. I love being able to kind of think of what was maybe inspiring, or even if there were certain pieces of some of those songs that you kind of used as like a launch pad for what you were doing. Was that the case with any of them? I think I read something about a Zapp and Rogers song, where maybe there was like a kind of a rhythmic line or something in there that you all had thought of.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's just kind of the language that musicians communicate in. If you hear something in your head, and there's not a great way to describe it other than saying like, oh, yeah, I kind of want to do something that's like this like zap groove, but a little bit more of this, and so it's just becomes this common language, and yeah, and if you don't have those like tracks to as a common language, it's not necessarily a barrier, but like A lot of cats that I know, especially if they're of similar age, you can drop references to any of these kind of things, and for the most part, they'll know immediately what you're talking about.
Okay, so you have this playlist, you have all these various genres on there. How do you approach staying true to all these various elements, but combine them into your unique sound?
So I don't think we're ever trying to, just emulate something. We're definitely trying to form our own unique sound, and for Octave Cat, I think that's like the trio sound. So in some ways, we're referencing going back to something like the organ trios, like Jimmy Smith kind of stuff, even though that's not what we sound like. Or, we all have a deep love for MMW and what they were doing with jazz and dance styles, and then bringing in our synth elements. That's, I think, what really gives like Octave Cat its unique sound. So, yeah, you know, writing is like never an easy process. We all have a lot of ideas in the band. We're all writers and producers, so sometimes there can be too many ideas, and someone's fighting to get it more cut down, or other people are fighting to get ideas in. But eventually, I think when all those steps go through, we end up with a pretty unique musical um, song or expression.
Do you think being a trio, just compared to your other musical experiences, does that give you more flexibility? How does that kind of change your perspective on even just live sound too?
Yeah, definitely when improvising, because it's only me and Eli who are uh, like doing the harmony interaction. So it's just with two people, it's a little bit easier to um, either like move through things quicker, or even have this more like open sound, because it's just like less people to coordinate harmonically.
Yeah, for sure. We talked to a lot of trios, right, Kev? I feel like I'm
It's
kind
the
of
year
thinking,
of the trio.
I think
It's
it
the
is
year
a
of
year
the
for us. Yeah,
The other thing is, if you're touring for a living, like three of
trios
those
play together.
four is definitely a little bit easier.
that's for
Okay.
sure.
Do you feel like your experiences with Lotus have influenced how you're approaching Octave Cat?
Oh yeah, definitely. This is, I've been doing Lotus for so many years, but um, I try to bring perspective on things that we've done well, and then other things that, like, maybe we fell short on, or like musically try to explore areas that we don't do that much with Lotus, but and also trying to bring in ideas like I think one of Lotus's strengths is really being able to stretch out improvisations, and get like um, a I don't know if experimental, but just kind of getting into these more like trancey zones where things just go. And I think that's something I try to bring to Octave Cat sometimes, because it's not necessarily I think a default of more like jazz influence playing.
That's true.
I hear you. How are you guys doing?
Doing?
Yeah, how are you guys doing as a band? With
Oh,
you've had a rough year. You guys had a rough year.
yeah. Yeah. Keeping on. Like I said, like, yeah, Lotus has had a lot of challenges, but um, the music and the fans and the community around it are, like what really keeps it going. And it's crazy for me to sometimes think about that we've been doing Lotus for 25 years, because um, I feel like I have like so many ideas for the band I still want to try and do. I don't feel like I'm running short on anything anytime. So yeah, there's these different permutations over the years, and but there's always like a new project in the works, new music, new studio stuff. So we it's
Celebrate your past
constant
and
work, and hopefully constant art.
right, celebrate your past and keep moving forward. Huh?
Yeah.
There you go.
I kind of wanted to nerd out a little bit on some of your gear, the synth stuff especially, because I've done a bunch of reading on it. Um, so the layers to the sounds that you're able to get, just adding in whether it's the oscillator, like all of that. I'm always so curious, like how do you know when to stop? Like when you're sitting there and you're working through this, like I just think to myself, I would never know when something's like ready, or is it ever ready, when you're just bringing in filters and all of that.
Yeah, I mean, my approach when I'm writing is like I only want sounds added that are going to add something to the composition. So and sometimes that is a process of like stacking up a lot of things and then starting to take them away. But when I'm doing editing and I mute something and I don't notice that it affects anything, then that's gone. Like my ultimate would be to strip it down to like the most essential parts. But so yeah, anything that's added in, I think is with purpose and not just to add something. It's either, and there's different functions, whether it's like a melody or a counter melody or something that's adding to a more like textural kind of feeling. But yeah, like they all should add up to something bigger, or they shouldn't be there.
Um, so I've seen you all live a couple times, but if someone hasn't, like what could they expect to get from that part of your music? Like what do you bring into the live experience with that, that like you would want people to know about?
Well, as far as the synths, I mean that it's something that just really expands the sound. Like I think of the band as like, at least in the stereo field, like in the center, and even in like the spectrum, it's like it's in a smaller range, and the synths just go to this big range in every direction. So yeah, we like to go from this like just straight up like jazz trio sound where we're just like bass, organ, drums, and then get into these sections where it's just these huge bass synths and these like really crispy like top layers and other kinds of interesting sounds going on. So Lotus kind of does the same thing too. But I really love that flexibility to switch between those kind of ranges and explore the dynamics in between them.
With Octave Cat, does everybody bring their own pieces of music in, their own songs, or do you guys get together and create from scratch?
Yeah, so we do both. The A lot of times we work kind of in duos. Like me and Eli will write something, or Eli and Charlie will write something, and then everyone else will work on it. Um, Usually separately. Like three at one time is like kind of tough way to write, I find. Um, Two is doable. With Lotus, a lot of times it's me and Luke write pretty much like on our own usually, and then are just sending a lot of things back and forth. So um, yeah, we like different um, process. But sometimes like if it's Charlie and Eli writing something, I like them to let me take a crack at doing an arrangement and kind of getting like my ideas in that way. Or yeah, I feel with Octave Cat, Eli's parts are get into keyboard realms that I can't really approach, so I need kind of him to have his parts worked out, even if I have like ideas where I think they should go.
Like, do you try to road test first songs, or is it let's go in the studio, do the album, then we'll see what it's like in the live context?
Um, I would say we usually have stuff pretty worked out before we play it live, even if it hasn't been released. Um, the and I may Some of that is just that um, we don't have a crazy huge catalog, so a lot of times whenever we're playing shows, if there's something new we like to break it out and play some
Shiny
new
object.
stuff. um, yeah, I don't know. I think occasionally it's influenced where we've taken the studio stuff, but I think a lot of times it's like we've been doing this long enough. We know that if it's going to work well live or not.
When you mentioned MMW, and it always reminds me of, Kevin, when we talked with Alan Evans, we were talking about the jam band scene itself, which is so amorphous, and a lot of people have different opinions on exactly what would constitute a jam band. And the story that Al told was basically about MMW playing the least danceable music possible at one point, to a crowd of jam band fans, and not really, wanting, kind of resisting that, that connection to a certain point. But then at the same time, it's there, and fans are so supportive. So I always get curious, like what are your thoughts on that label? Does it matter, like to you personally?
I mean, a little bit. But I would say more in a negative way. I mean, for people in the scene, they get that it's a lot of things, but people outside, I think, just hear jam band and just think of all the worst parts. So they just think of like some fish jam that someone played for them and they didn't like it. So, yeah, but so it can go both ways.
Mm-hmm.
But what always kind of struck me was some of the groups that like never became associated with jam bands, like I think of a lot of like the krautrock stuff. I would think should be like huge. Like Can sounds like the greatest jam band, or Noi, but like nobody in the jam band seems to know about those groups.
But everybody likes King Gizzard now, which reminds me a lot of King.
Yeah, and that's true. And the Giz is a good example of like someone who, like, I don't know why, but they fit in the jam band mold, and in a lot of ways, and people in the scene seem to like get that band. But yeah, there's like why is the Talking Heads so huge in the jam band scene, but like I don't know, the Modern Lovers aren't. I don't know. It's like it's unexplainable, really.
Yeah.
Or Television.
Television, exactly. One of my favorites. We played a Television song at our festival this summer, and I think there wasn't more than like 20 people who knew what it was.
Well, which one? What did you do? Marquee Moon? Which one?
Yeah, Marquee Moon.
Who died? One of them guys died this past year.
Verlaine, but I think it was about a year or so. Oh, it was in February. Yeah, it was in February.
Yeah, that's crazy. So crazy. Richard Lloyd followed me on Twitter, and it was one of the happiest days of my life. All right, let's jump back into Octave Cat for a little bit. You have the extended jams, you have the improvisational sections in the live shows. What is the key to maintaining cohesion and communication during those moments, like holding on to the song still, kind
of? Yeah, I don't know. I think that's just what we tend to do. I don't think I don't think anyone's trying to go too far away from the songs when we improvise. So, there's always ideas of what, like what direction it should go. Like this should be something that's like dancey, or eventually there should be this like, solo that kind of finishes it off. But I would say with Octave Cat, it's like a little bit more contained than something like Lotus, where we're doing a lot of like segues and these more like more drawn out improvisations.
That made me think. Sorry.
Let me get a little deeper. How do you balance keeping your individual style and vision for what a song is in check with what is actually happening around you?
I mean, sometimes that's just talking it out, like after the show, saying like, yo, maybe don't take it into this kind of beat, or let's like, I think it would be better if we try to go this kind of direction. So yeah, I think it's just like working out some ideas, and either in rehearsals or at shows. Because sometimes you play an improvisation and it goes amazingly well, and sometimes it doesn't seem to have the kind of like arc that you're hoping for. So some of that is just stumbling upon it at times, but other times it's just having kind of a plan at the outset of where you want something to go. So everybody is kind of has the same kind of star that they're looking at.
I think we've heard that before too, right, Kev? Like you kind of know where you're going to get to eventually, and then that beautiful space in the middle is where you can really let some things go. But I would imagine that over time, as you've played, with Octave Cat, that kind of internal like trust factor grows, and you're able to probably anticipate a little bit more what might happen. We've had people tell us that actually makes them more confident to play less versus, really trying to get out there and just like go all out, right, immediately. Do you feel like your style has changed over the years in terms of just how much you play, how many notes, how that style comes through?
I mean, I've always had somewhat of a minimalist approach. So I love breakdowns. I mean, even with like three people, sometimes it seems like too much. So I encourage people when they're improvising to just like stop like whenever seems right. I especially love a lot of times I think in terms of like dance music when I'm improvising or writing, and usually what really gets like a dance floor going is like a really good breakdown, and when it comes back. So if you don't have that cut, it doesn't come back the same way. If everything's just going and constantly going up, it doesn't have the same energy as something that's going up and then stops and then comes back again. So I'm all about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I feel like I think I saw this summer. It might have been on your Facebook page. You all had broken down Vader, kind of talking about the different components of it. And I remember Charlie saying, it's 4 on the floor, and like, yeah, that's simple, right? But you have to, like, when you get it, and you have to really make sure that it's effective, even for something that everybody knows, and loves. And I like the way he kind of described how he tries to, get into that kind of stuff too.
Yeah, definitely. And I think those are kind of things too. Like the more you play together, the more you get a sense of where people are trying to phrase and how to really like build dynamics as a group in a coherent way.
Cool.
I was going to ask about set lists.
Mm-hmm.
Who writes the set list?
Me and Eli have been working on them, and then we all kind of pitch with ideas. It's always funny to hear from different musicians like why two songs shouldn't be played back to back. Like, someone will be like, "Oh, these are both in the same key." I'm like, "Well, that's fine with me," or other people will be like, "Oh, this beat is too similar" or something. So, it's like sometimes it's like just putting together a set list is an interesting way to understand how other people think about music.
You have a smaller pool of songs with Octave Cat than Lotus, obviously.
Yeah.
How does that affect building a set list? Do you have certain songs are openers, closers?
Yeah, definitely. And I think like just because we haven't played that many Octave Cat shows, my tendency is to just let's like lean heavily on our what we think is just currently our best material. And it's like, yeah, exactly. It's not like some of these Lotus fans who have seen 100, 150 shows are like, oh, that song again. Like we've only played some of these songs, like 15, 20 times at the most. So I don't mind playing some of the same songs like several nights in a row.
With Lotus, who writes the set list?
That's Luke.
Does he have a spreadsheet?
He's got a lot of forms that he uses. He's got a whole process.
Oh, cool.
We've talked to Matt Bush and other people, and we always laugh whether they have spreadsheets or not. Somebody told us once they have a pile of papers. They still have all their handwritten stuff, and they write everything by hand.
Yeah, I mean we have like a database of like the songs with tempos, keys, like styles, and then we're always referencing like what did we play the night before, what did we play last time we were in the town, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's like someone should write some kind of bit of software that automates some of that for you, but as of right now, it's all just
you'd be giving jam band fans something else to complain about if you did that.
What are you talking about? Nobody ever gets critical. That never happens. It was Dark Star. They have very extensive spreadsheets and database, so they don't play the same show in the same place.
Or the same year. They didn't want to play like Brent era 2 times in a row through it down. One year had to be Keith and one was Brent.
So they have some additional layers of context that they have to sift through, I think.
Yeah.
So you guys are on tour right now. Actually, no, you're about to start up again, I think, right?
Octave Cat just did 3 shows this last weekend, and then we're playing again November 30, December 1, December 2.
That's right. Okay. These different markets and all, is there like a part of the country or a place where you feel like you all come in and maybe the fans are like especially either knowledgeable or just really, like into the sound that you have? I was curious about that.
I think some of those places where they just know like Lotus or Dopapod more and have checked out the group. But yeah, it's interesting with Octave Cat. Like I feel like we've gotten a lot more like international kind of hits. Like we're sending records to like Japan, Australia, Germany, UK, more than Lotus. I think maybe just like the jazz connection so I think there are people that are finding Octave Cat through other things, through, I don't know, playlists or however people find music these days, but through some of our studio recordings rather than our association with our primary bands.
Mm-hmm. It's funny, we were talking earlier about, I was saying how I found music was I still like read stuff and then go find the band. Even to this day, I used to wait for Spin to come in the mail and to figure out, what was going to be the next big band. But even to this day, I go read blog posts about bands as opposed to letting Spotify tell me what I should listen to, I guess.
Yeah, that's definitely a better move.
That's fantastic. All right. Do you feel like there's a progression with Octave Cat since the first album and through the last one?
Yeah, I think quite a bit. I mean, I think you can hear some of the elements from our earliest stuff through now, and I think that's kind of why we continued it. That like early on, there was really this kind of like unique voice, and it was pretty different than what we were doing with like Lotus or Dopapod. But it was like not so far outside that it was something that we could comfortably do. So yeah, but I would say actually on like both sides, I think we're more comfortable, especially on the latest album, just like really stripping it down to the like trio sound, but then also going further in on some of the synth kind of stuff. Like we definitely did a few on like our second album, Refract. We did a few pretty like synth heavy tracks, but on Sprezzatura, I think there's like a really nice balance where it's like, I don't know, all those. It doesn't feel like these like hard shifts to me, even though like texturally they are like pretty big throughout the album.
So you're 25 years in the business, give or take. You can remember physical media, people actually buying CDs like that. What's your take on how the music business has changed with the advent of streaming and such?
It's opened up a lot of music to people. I think as like an engineer and an audiophile, the one thing that I think really gets lost is audio quality, and a lot of people don't really realize what they're missing out on Even vinyl solves that a little bit, but a lot of people just have like terrible turntables, so they're not.
Can't buy that $50 turntable from Amazon.
Yeah, especially when you work like for a year, 2 years on a record, and you know how amazing it can sound, and then you hear it streaming through something terrible. You're like, oh, why? So, um, yeah, I think that's a little bit of downfall. It's been great to see the vinyl resurgence. But yeah, let's get everybody some good turntables. But there's really no reason. I mean, we're out there streaming 4K video all the time, and we can't have just like wave files be streamed. It seems crazy, but for most people, they're just doing it because. People can't tell the difference, or don't know that they should be able to tell the difference because they've never really been given higher quality. So I don't know. That's kind of
my kids have never heard a really good turntable and a really good pair of speakers at full volume. I know that they can't appreciate the beauty of that.
I mean, I think people do get it at shows. I mean, the PA systems have gotten really good as long as they're used appropriately. So, but yeah, there's definitely something to, hearing good music at high quality. It really opens stuff up.
So are you then kind of the person who handles like the nugs uploads and all that? Because I know that you posted a couple of shows, actually just one a couple of days ago. Is that something that you're in charge of, or does someone else kind of handle that?
Yeah, I mix all the shows for Lotus and almost all of them for Octave Cat too.
Yeah.
Is there a disconnect between what you're thinking on stage and what you hear later when you upload?
Yeah, I mean, so like sometimes, there's like room energy, and it's different than recordings. I think you can go both ways. Like sometimes just like a show had like bonkers energy and it doesn't really get translated to the recording. And there's other times where you're like, oh, that show seemed like slow and boring or something. And then you hear the recording, like, wow, there's like a lot going on here. So yeah, I think it can go both ways, and they're different experiences. So like when I'm mixing a show, I'm not necessarily like someone who says like, okay, it was like room recording is what we want, like just like a document. To me, it's more of like, how are people going to experience this? And it's like, it's at home on speakers or in headphones or something. So like, it's by default going to be a different kind of sound. So I'm trying to mix to give the best experience for listening later, not necessarily like pure document, if that makes sense.
We talked to Matt Ruffino, and he was talking about when he's mixing, he wants to mix for the high-end, best-sounding thing, but what he really needs to mix for is someone's phone. And he finds,
Yeah, I mean, like, I think ultimately a good mix is gonna be both. But yeah, that's I do think sometimes you gotta have to sacrifice things. But to me, like composition and mixing kind of go hand in hand, and you want to think of them whenever I'm working on a recording or writing something. I'm thinking at both at the same time. Like you can write something, but if it's mixed to the point where you can't really hear it on certain speakers, like is that even really part of the composition? So yeah, making sure everything's working like compositionally and working in a mix is important.
So do you all have any plans in the works for next year? Anything that you could share with us?
For Octave Cat?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, working on a few shows. Both Lotus and Dopapod have pretty busy schedules in the first half of 2024, so that always makes it a little tricky. Also, like I just need to have some time off every once in a while, or I'll lose my mind. So sometimes I've realized more and more it's important to just say like, oh, even if we have this weekend off, sometimes like it's better not to schedule something just so I can have a little bit of downtime. But yeah, we did a lot of writing over the pandemic that ended up in Sprezzatura, but there was like probably a whole album worth of music that we worked on that didn't make it on that record that it could either be punched up or redone, or we could write some more stuff. So yeah, I think we're all kind of like back of our minds thinking like when could we start in on the next like seeds of the next studio album as well.
How did the forced time out you had with COVID and quarantine affect Lotus and Octave Cat and what you did?
Um, it was challenging for sure. I think for like Lotus, big challenge that we live in different places, so
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't even like and there's like members with kids that were like very concerned about COVID and yeah, like I'm sure everybody experienced that. Like trying to do things remotely, it can be fine for some writing, but yeah, it just like slows things down. And I've and yeah, and not performing. It was just a massive challenge in every way. But I feel like the people that could capitalize on it better were people that like lived in the same area where they could do more like video oriented kind of things. And yeah, that was not really that feasible for Octave Cat or Lotus in the same way that it was for other people either. So yeah, it was. I'm very glad to see those times done for the moment.
Right, Goose knocked it out of the park. Those kids.
That's yeah. So like good opportunity for them, but yeah, like
Right
I
place, right time. My
don't think
mom always, my
very much.
mom always said, "It's not what you know, it's who you know." So
Well,
what's Lotus?
probably both help.
Right. Well, what does Lotus look like next year? You mentioned that was a full card.
Yeah, we've got a big winter tour that goes out to the West Coast and back, and then there's more shows in the spring to be announced. So yeah, like that kind of big like 4 or 5 week tour is always something you're really gearing up for. But we did one last year, and I thought it was just really great for the band to just play that much. I mean, we didn't do any openers, and so we just were on stage rehearsing for like a couple hours every day, and then playing these 3 hour shows. So it was just like doing that 5 days a week just can really like launch a band into a different level of of playing as long as you don't murder each other off the stage.
Has the post COVID landscape for bands changed out there?
I mean, some of the things are just indirect, but like everybody's experiencing just everything's more expensive. Like I mean, for a while, I mean, it's kind of still the case. It's like getting getting things like buses is not like nearly as easy as it used to be. Sometimes there's just like no buses available. But yeah, travel is like quite a bit more expensive. We're not really going through like what we did, I guess like 2 years ago, where you would just get these like as many cancellations as you would announcements anymore. But yeah, there's the whole other thing of that's still kind of being balanced out is, there was all these always cycles before the pandemic where bands were out touring and other bands were taking a break and it wasn't so crazy, and then that hit and everyone just came back at the exact same time. And it's you try to get hold sometimes. You're like, all right, we're just 15th hole deep, like 9 months out. It's like it's much more crazy to like book tours that fit together or get like prime nights where I think before it used to be a little bit easier to string those things together. So hopefully there's some kind of like balance in that world coming back at some point, but or maybe it's just like the new reality, like everybody has to tour more to um, pay their bills and do what they want to do. So we'll see.
Yeah, we've heard from other people that they've lowered ticket prices in order to try to make it open, to larger people. But then on the other hand, gas is twice as much as it was. So you're relying on merch then, maybe.
Even just in a broader context, like I don't think you're just competing with music anymore. You're competing with, I mean, it's the whole attention economy. There's so many things to do. Like, yeah, you're competing with streaming the new TV show or whatever. Like, just getting people out is, I mean, it's always been a little bit of a challenge, but I think it's like a little bit more of a challenge than it was before the pandemic.
And now it's streaming a band. I've watched like 30 Spafford shows this year because they were free on YouTube. 10 o'clock at night, they're playing the West Coast. Hey, let's throw the Spafford show on,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, like I said, it's both sides. There's like more opportunities for exposure, but more competition. So I guess you got to take them hand in hand.
You got to take them hand in hand. I hear you. All right. You got anything else there, Amanda?
No, I think we covered a lot. I'm just really glad to have a chance to talk and appreciate your time. This has been fantastic.
Right on.
Yeah, thank you.
With you.
For more great content like this, head on over to Twitter or Instagram at allthatjampod, or our website, www.allthatjampod.com. Sign up for our email list. If you find us on Apple, please leave a review, 5 stars, Spotify, same thing, or wherever you get your pods. And make sure to join us every Monday for a new episode.